When your heart is wounded, do you build walls or do you build bridges? Every one of us carries a story of hurt, some of it small, some of it life-changing. And when we are wounded, something inside us shifts. We don't reach out, we retreat, we build walls. Walls feel safe, walls feel wise, walls feel strong. But sometimes the wall that protects you also keeps you from becoming who you are meant to be. And one woman in history faced that very choice. And her name is Corrie ten Boom. And many of you probably already know her story. But I want to focus on a chapter of her life that often gets overlooked, yet shaped everything that followed. During World War II, she and her family hid Jewish family in their home in the Netherlands. When they were discovered, they were arrested. Her father died shortly after the arrest. Her sister Betsy died at Ravensbrück concentration camp, the very place where Corrie herself was imprisoned. Ravensbrück was a women's concentration camp in Germany, and it was a place of suffering and humiliation. And Corrie survived, and after the war, she traveled the world speaking about forgiveness, acceptance, and hope. And she tells her story in the book, The Hiding Place. If you have never read it, I highly recommend it. It's not just a story about war, it's a story about courage, faith, and forgiveness. But the chapter I want to talk about happened long before the war and long before the world knew her name. It happened when she was a young woman and her heart was broken. She fell deeply in love. She became engaged and she was planning for a great future. But then her fiancé ended the engagement and married someone else. In a single moment, her future collapsed. And so she asked her father, what do you do when love has been blocked? When you have love to give, but nowhere to give it? His answer was simple but profound. You can kill the love so it stops hurting, but part of you dies too. Or you can rechannel it. And she could have chosen bitterness. She could have built a wall. Instead, she rechanneled her love into service, compassion, and courage. And years later, she would risk everything to protect others. But perhaps the most powerful bridge she ever built came years later. She was speaking at a meeting in Germany about forgiveness, and she had just finished explaining how God forgives us and how we are called to forgive others as well. And as people were leaving, a man walked toward her. She recognized him immediately. He had been one of the guards at Ravensbrück, the very camp where her sister Betsy had died. He extended his hand and said, I have become a Christian. I know God has forgiven me, but will you forgive me? And imagine that moment. In an instant, a flood of memories came rushing back. The humiliation, the cruelty, the suffering. Her sister gone, her father gone, her family torn apart, lives destroyed, all of it standing in front of her in the face of the man now holding out his hand. This was the man who had been part of the system that crushed her family. And at that moment, she stood at a crossroads, wall or bridge, retreat or reach. And she later wrote, and it's recorded in The Hiding Place, that she felt nothing at first. Forgiveness didn't come as a rush of emotion. It came as a choice. She prayed silently for strength, and she reached out her hand and she forgave him. And that was a bridge. It wasn't built on emotion. It was built on a decision, on courage, on love that had been redirected instead of buried. And maybe that's what makes her story so powerful, because bridges aren't built when it's easy. They're built when it's hardest. They're built when the pain is real. They're built when everything in you wants to step back, but you choose to step forward instead. And maybe this is where it becomes personal. Maybe someone betrayed you, and maybe someone walked away. Maybe someone wounded you deeply, and now your heart feels guarded. You're standing at your own crossroads, wall or bridge. And this is exactly where faith becomes real. Because remember this, Jesus didn't call perfect people. He didn't build his movement on flawless hearts. He chose fishermen who doubted, tax collectors who failed, disciples who ran away, broken people, hurting people, people with wounds. And then he sent them into a hurting world. A world full of wounded hearts, a world full of people hiding behind walls. And he still does. He sends wounded healers. He sends forgiven forgivers. He sends people who have known pain so they can build bridges of grace. And so what do you do when love is blocked? You rechannel it. If you're rejected, offer acceptance. If you're hurt, offer kindness. If you're betrayed, offer integrity. If you're abandoned, show up for someone else. Don't let pain define you. Let it refine you. Walls isolate, but bridges connect. Walls feel strong, but bridges change lives. Corey's heartbreak didn't end her story. It prepared her for it. And maybe your pain isn't the end of your story either. Maybe it's the preparation. And so I will ask you again, when your heart is wounded, will you build walls or will you build bridges? Because the world doesn't need more protection. It needs more connection. And maybe your bridge is someone else's rescue.